family detached style. And as you noted, council member, all of these units are affordable below 60. They are 12 at 30, 18 at 50%, and 24 at 60%. Also, probably important, or definitely important to note, is that a dozen of those units, 12 units, are permanent supportive housing dedicated to serving survivors of domestic violence. And also, there are 8 project-based vouchers associated with this. So many of the residents, regardless of the income levels that we discussed, many of the residents will not be paying more than 30% of their income, regardless.
Outstanding. Councilmember Lupien, it's your district. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Yeah, this project has been in the works for years and was actually proposed originally with some higher density and was rejected by one of the boards. So they're coming back to us now with this project kind of reimagined to fit into what they can to get through. I'm so excited for this project, and I wish it was easier to build affordable housing. So,
well, it's easier to build affordable housing in some parts of the city than it is in others, and we'll just leave it at that. Any other questions,
enough.
comments, or concerns? Yes, Council Vice President.
Just got a comment. I'm just really happy to see that there was additional, like we talked about this in the past with other projects that we would like to see 3 and 4 bedroom units, and this is happening, and this is very good for our city. And then I also see in here in the transmittal that you guys will be, home leasing will be providing Wi-Fi to all the tenants. Is there any additional amenities that you guys have already agreed to that's not put in the transmittal that they will be providing?
I will double check on that, and if there's anything else that we left out, we'll provide that in writing.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
This is amazing. My question has already been answered. It was regarding unit types, and it's so nice to see so many family units. So this is amazing. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second on more affordable housing in the city of Rochester.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of more affordable housing in the city of Rochester, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah, that's right. Introductory passes. All right, introductory number 445. It's an amendment regarding the 2024 Annual Action Plan, Consolidated Community Development Plan, Street Liaison Services. Can the administration talk briefly about what the change is between this item and the previous item that we passed? Oh, I think it was like last month. And I think I know the answer, but might as well have you guys say it.
Yep. Commissioner Miller.
Yes. Thank you, Council Member. The primary change here is substituting a new entity for the Northwest Quadrant. Previously, Cameron Community Ministries was going to be doing this service in the Northwest. It will now be done by Highland Planning. So that's really the primary change here. The other change in this particular transmittal is that when you looked at this last month, it was unfortunately set up in a way that the amounts that have been prorated were not prorated in both the transmittal and the legislation. So we've corrected that. Because the program is starting later than normal, we have prorated the amounts for just the portion of the year that the the item will be in effect.
Okay. At this time, I'm looking for questions, comments, concerns, and we'll start with Councilmember Monroe since it's her district.
Hello, Commissioner.
Hello, Council Member.
So it was kind of my understanding that previously, so Highland Planning had it before, then they were stepping out of the role. So was there a period there where there was no street liaison?
Yes, there was a period where there was no street liaison, but in continued negotiations with Highland, they have agreed to continue the service in your area.
Okay. Could I just have some more information about the service, what they do, and how things are measured? I'm not as familiar with what the street liaison does, in particular with the business aspects in getting some more business groups up and going, like Dewey Avenue would certainly be great. And re-energizing West Ridge Road. Lyle's been doing a nice job of keeping people together, so that information would be appreciated.
Okay, we will provide that to you.
Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, Councilmember Lupian.
So Highland Planning is in for the Southeast Quadrant, but I also know that Southeast Area Coalition is going to be involved somehow. Are they subcontracting with Highland?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Seeing no other questions, comments, or concerns, I need a motion in a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 445, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. With there being no other work before this committee, we stand adjourned.
What time is? Maybe ask her if those are the issues that are still outstanding. If that's what she may in her head think there's something more there, but if that's all that was asked. sort of like nauseous, but not like really sick. It's just, I think I'm just.
It's just heavy, like a heaviness, and like you're like waiting in water.
Yes. I totally feel like I'm like, I totally feel like I'm like, yes.
Good afternoon. At this time, I will call the People, Parks Public Works Committee to order, and I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice President Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lightfoot. Councilmember Lupian. Here. Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
And we are joined by Councilmember Gruber, Councilmember Patterson, and Councilmember Smith in Monroe. Good afternoon. As you all know, this fall I launched a childhood poverty initiative. And as a reminder, our survey asking residents within the city to share their feedback with the City Council is open through Monday the 18th. I encourage you to visit City Council's social media pages to find the links and take the survey. Copies of the flyer are in both in English and in Spanish. They're available in our office with the council staff. As a reminder to my colleagues, part of this work will be here from a number of we will be hearing from another experts in our community on the topic of childhood poverty, including Youth Forum on November 18th at the MLK Park Lodge. I have invited youth groups across the city to participate and encourage everyone on council to join us. In December, we will host organizations and other experts to come before the committee to provide an expert testimony. Please join me on December 4th and December 10th from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the council chambers. Finally, this week, I rolled out to the administration a survey and the mayor on how each department is contributing to the upward mobility of the City of Rochester residents. Please contact Chief of Staff James and Deputy Chief of Staff Jen, Adrian, and Jade from the council staff if you have any questions or feedback. Today, we will have one presentation which is scheduled for this month's committee as we welcome David A. Rowley, Manager of PPW, Manager of the Water Production, and Commissioner Perrin. Is Commissioner Perrin here? Okay. He will provide an update on the long-term 2LT2 Enhanced Surface Water Treatment Rule. We ask that you speak clearly in the microphone and come to the podium, and you may begin your presentation.
Good afternoon. Again, my name's Dave, and I'd like to thank the committee for their interest in getting updated on our efforts to comply with the long-term 2 Enhanced Surface Water Treatment Rule. My presentation, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what it is, where we're at in the process, and where we are moving towards over the next year or so. So, there we go. So the long-term 2 rule has actually been around for quite a while. The regulation was adopted in order to protect people from a pathogen called cryptosporidium. Cryptosporidium makes people very ill, and it doesn't get treated by chlorine. So for communities that have reservoirs that have finished drinking water in them that are not covered, there is a risk of cryptosporidium getting in there. And the rule says you have to do one of 3 things to come into compliance. You either provide additional treatment that will inactivate the critters that make people sick, cover the reservoir in question in order to prevent the pathogens from entering, or simply remove the reservoir from service if that is a possibility for the operational paradigm of the water system. So those are the requirements of the rule. So the city did begin its efforts to comply in 2006. In 2006 to 2008, we had a reservoir optimization study performed, and it looked at dozens, literally, of options for complying at all 3 of our reservoirs. The first one being Rush. Rush was relatively simple, and I say that because Rush is out in Rush obviously, and it's on a hill where nobody visits because we own all the land. So we did not have concerns over the aesthetic. So we were able to, in 2012, put Rush online with a brand new liner and cover. And the benefits of that we are still seeing today. The water quality as it leaves Rush Reservoir is fantastic. It's just as good as it went in. We couldn't say that before. So that's been a wonderful investment for the city moving forward. And that happened in 2012. Now, at Highland Reservoir, our current bilateral compliance agreement requires us to come into compliance with LT2 by November of 2029. And at Cobb's Hill, we are required to be in compliance by November of 2035. So, a little bit of history. We did begin the process of complying with LT2 for Highland back in 2018. We had a previous bilateral compliance agreement that required us to be in compliance by right about now, 2024, late 2024. So in 2018, we began the process. And at that time, we evaluated a bunch of potential compliance options, including various types of covered storage, various types of treatment that would inactivate potential pathogens. We also considered what it would be like to decommission the reservoir. And you can see there, extend bilateral compliance agreement. That's crossed out because we didn't think at the time it was really an option, but I'll get to that. So, in 2020, as we were moving through the study, we shortlisted 3 alternatives. One of those was a floating cover, much like at Rush, or a floating cover with some mitigating feature, like a water feature or something like that. A buried concrete tank that would allow us to put parkland on top of it. And then the other option was ultraviolet disinfection, which is really intense UV lights. They kill cryptosporidium. And then adding chlorine after that in order to ensure that we meet the requirement of the regulation. So that's what we looked at in 2020. So why did we stop in 2020? Well, right about that time, EPA, United States EPA, published a new rule regarding lead in drinking water on the heels of the Flint crisis and things like that. And we took a good look at that regulation and realized that the way that it was written had a big impact on the way we treat our water here in Rochester. And what I mean by that is they changed the rules to essentially lower our allowable lead limits and also change the way we sample lead for compliance. And I don't want to go off on a tangent, but we did some evaluations right away and realized with the new rule we would not be able to comply with the new rule. So we wanted to take steps right away so that we could be in compliance and make sure we were providing people with the best water possible. As part of that evaluation, we realized there's a good likelihood we might have to add a corrosion inhibitor called orthophosphate to the water to keep lead from leaching into the water. And the problem with orthophosphate is it is not compatible with open reservoirs. Open reservoirs and orthophosphate's also a fertilizer. If you put fertilizer on your garden, there's phosphorus in there. Algae can grow. If you go to Highland right now and you look at it, the water's crystal clear, it looks beautiful. There's no algae. It's because there's no orthophosphate in the water, along with the fact that we keep the water fresh in there. So we realized that if we were going to be forced by this new lead regulation to add orthophosphate, it could dramatically impact what choices we were making to comply with LT2 for both reservoirs. So we at that time said we'd have to put the brakes on LT2 to understand where we need to be to comply with this other regulation. So we then realized we need to petition the health department and ask them to give us time to do a study on corrosion in our lead services and things like that in order to be able to comply with that, so that we can then use that information to make good informed decisions about how we're going to comply with LT2. So that is why we stopped the evaluation. We petitioned the health department at the time. They agreed to extend the bilateral compliance agreement to allow us time to conduct that corrosion study. So what's different with our new evaluation? So we are, as part of our BCA, bilateral compliance agreement extension, one of the first milestones was we had to hire a consultant to start the process for Highland earlier this year, which we have done, and we are working on that now. So what are we doing differently this time than last time? Well, the new BCA gives us a little longer, obviously. We're also taking a good hard look at decommissioning the reservoir as an option. We didn't look at it as deeply last time because we didn't feel like operationally it was wise. The public feedback we got at the time indicated to us that we do need to take a look at it to make sure that we're doing our diligence and better cooperating, or not, I don't want to say cooperating, but listening to and taking feedback from the public. So we are taking a good hard look at what decommissioning would mean. It would require us to add redundant or additional storage at another location because whatever we have for storage, we need 2 of them so that I can take one off line to service it and still have storage. And we're in the middle of our study on corrosion control to determine whether we need orthophosphate. We should have answers for that hopefully in the spring or summer of next year, right around the time that we hope to be making decisions about LT2. So we'll be able to make informed decisions about both things in a year or so, or actually less than a year. So, and also another just little reminder, the Children's Pavilion is moving forward, yay. So we want to be extra sensitive to how the things we do impact the aesthetic of the park with regard to the Children's Pavilion. So, what is our current schedule? Well, we just had our first public workshop last week on Tuesday, October 29th. It was well attended. We got some great feedback. We are currently in the process of taking all these different options that we have and trying to create a set of alternatives for compliance that make the most sense, apply cost estimates to them, along with pros and cons for other less tangible things than money, aesthetic, impact on quality of life, impact on how we operate our water system to make sure that we retain our resiliency and our reliability. So as we go through the winter, we will be developing those options, and then we will have another public workshop probably in the spring. At that workshop, we will present the options that we have kind of hashed out with some cost estimates and present them to the public. And again, no decisions will have been made at this time. That's where we will seek feedback again from the public, and then we will continue to refine the options to try to present one that best meets all of our varied needs in this process. So hopefully by winter of next year, we're having our final workshop to present what we believe to be the best option. So it'll be a busy year. We do have a website, cityofrochester.gov, reservoir improvement. The QR code does work. I tested it. People can join our mailing list if they want to get updates, and they can also use that link to provide feedback to us that we've actually gotten a couple folks who sent us sketches. So we were really thrilled that people are being proactive about getting involved and giving us feedback on what we're doing there. So I believe that is the end of my presentation, but I am happy to take questions.
Thank you. I'll start with I'll take the privilege to start with a question, and then I'll have my colleagues join me, starting with Councilmember Gruber and going to my right. If we were like to look at the other, like you mentioned that there's 4 different treatment options that they had suggested, and my question is, with the treatment options, is that like once every so often, like once a year, or is that?
The treatment would be continuous.
Okay.
You know, I do want to make the point, and I failed to, and I apologize. I didn't bring my notes up because I thought I had it all in here. You know, whatever option we end up picking, it will represent some sort of change to the park's aesthetic. Even if we just shut the reservoir off and put storage somewhere else, okay? And I say that because even if we shut the reservoir off, the reason it always looks so nice is we turn that thing over about every 3 days. There's 25 million gallons of water in there, and about every day we take about 7-8 million out, put 7 or 8 million in. So we keep it fresh. That's why it looks so nice. We won't be able to do that if we just decommission the reservoir. It's going to look a little more natural, we'll say. It'll be a different aesthetic for sure. If we choose to do some sort of tank or cover, clearly that's an aesthetic change. And with treatment, if you've ever been inside the buildings that exist at the park now that we use for current treatment, there's just no room to put anything else. So we would actually have to build another building. And any treatment we install would have to be done continuously, just like we add chlorine continuously. So, does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you. Councilmember Gruber?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Just first a data question. I'm going to see if I can get this right. Cryptosporidium. Did I get
Yes.
that right? Are there any instances? I mean, we obviously test regularly. Have you seen in your years? Have we any evidence that it is an issue or concern?
We have been conducting testing for cryptosporidium since we entered in the bilateral compliance agreement in 2012. We've detected it once at Highland and once at Cobb's. And when I say once, I mean the test itself, and the only way I can give you context is to explain how the test works. You actually literally have to take this filter and filter about 40 gallons of water through this filter. You send it to a lab. They take the filter, they clean it off, and they take all the stuff that was on it and they put it under a microscope, and they literally have to look for these little things in the microscope. I wouldn't want to do it. It sounds awfully tedious, but so it's a very tedious process, but we've only ever detected one little, they call them cysts, one cryptosporidium cyst in one test at Highland and one at Cobb. So I think the overarching question you have is do we have a cryptosporidium problem at Cobb's and Highland? No, we don't.
And so, and this is just making sure I understand. The reason we're doing this at all is not because it's an issue for us. It's just because we're following federal regulations.
We have no choice but to follow the federal regulation. Other communities have petitioned for waivers, and none have been successful. And I am very confident, based on my years here and my years in the State Health Department prior to this, that we would not get a waiver either. So we need to do something.
Got it.
So treatment, we would be putting in treatment for something that's really not a problem.
Yeah. So thanks. I figured that was the case. I just wanted to make sure. I guess, and I shudder to say this on today of all days, but given how much this law has changed already, administration to administration at the federal level, is there concern that we are going to start to chase what the regulation is today, and by the time 2029 rolls around, there'll be a new regulation? That seems to be what the track has been since 2006, right?
Well, this regulation hasn't changed. Other regulations have come into play, and to give you context, other communities who chose UV light or treatment and leaving the reservoirs uncovered are now having to take a look at maybe that's not viable anymore because of the situation that we recognize might happen to us. So I wouldn't say LT2 has changed. That's been pretty constant, and it's really, you either put treatment on, you cover it, or you turn it off. Those three options have always been there. It's really all the other regulations that happen that can interfere. I don't see any regulation interfering with covered storage. Obviously, the lead regulation I explained interferes with not covering storage.
So why the two different timelines for the two different reservoirs?
Because taking on both of those at one time is a Herculean task. It's a lot of construction, and I need one reservoir online while I'm doing the other one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I asked the question wrong. It was my understanding that was the federal timeline is different for the two of them. That's our timeline is 29 and 35?
We negotiated that timeline as part of the bilateral compliance agreement.
Got it. So we didn't ask for a waiver, but part of this was back in 2006 even just creating what the timeline looks like and essentially negotiating a deal with the EPA.
Well, yes, but it's the State Health Department and the Monroe County Health Department, not EPA.
And is what we have now as the plan that is set in stone? There's no further negotiation?
I am pretty confident there's no way we're going to delay this further. And I'll be honest with you, this is my saying, the farther down the road you kick the can, the heavier it gets. We are in a position now where, and I always look at what New York City does. They have an uncovered reservoir. Their compliance schedule they get a lot more consideration because of the scale of what they do. Their compliance schedule is not all that different than ours, and they've been told they're not getting an extension. So I don't have any confidence we would get another extension unless it has to do with simple issues that might come up during construction, things like that, where we might not quite hit November of 2029, but we're working on it, and we might be done in February of 2030 or something like that. That kind of stuff we probably have leeway with, but to not go very far and then just say, hey, we want to delay it again, I don't.
Okay.
That's really not a viable alternative.
Got it. I have one last question, but I'll close with a comment first, which is just, and I had asked this, and I'll ask the deputy mayor here as well to make sure this happens. As the public engagement happens, I had asked Commissioner Perrin when we first voted on this months ago, just to make sure that there is a chance for council to talk to the consultants, as we do with many other consultants that the city brings in. So I'd like to make sure we have a chance to have that conversation. I do think that no matter what the change is going to be, it's going to be difficult for people. Bottom line, which is my last question: are there any other cities that have open reservoirs in historic Olmsted parks that you know of?
I don't know if they're Olmsted parks, but for instance, the city of Pittsburgh actually has a Highland Park reservoir that is open. They treat that water using what's called membrane filtration. They are seriously reconsidering having that one be open because of the new lead regulations. So there's that balance, right? They're concerned about the impact that the need to put orthophosphate in the water might have on the reservoir itself. So there are others. A lot of communities have taken reservoir features and turned them into additional parkland by constructing tanks and then burying the tank underground and putting grass and amenities on top.
It just might be a research question that maybe even council staff can collaborate with the administration. I'd love to understand. I do think that we are unique in having our two open reservoirs in two historic. Actually, is Copsilla an Olmsted Park?
It's not an Olmsted Park, but it is
a historic park nonetheless. But certainly in Highland and Cobb's, I think there's a little something kind of unique about that nature. And maybe you're right that we would never be granted a waiver, and maybe you're right that if New York City is not going to be granted exemptions, we wouldn't either. But I do think it'd be wise for us to know the difference in our situation than others. So maybe we can collaborate on some type of a quick research project about that. And I'll stop asking questions. Thank you, Chair Harris.
Thank you, Councilmember Gruber. Councilmember Lupien.
Yeah, two questions. Is there any option where we would choose one solution for one reservoir and a different one for the other?
Potentially.
Okay.
It really depends on the outcome of our study regarding corrosion of lead.
But it's a potential.
Sure.
Okay. And the second question is, the study, do we already know the pricing of the different options, and the study is looking at something different?
With regards to options for compliance with what we do, our consultant is in the process of establishing cost estimates and things like that. So we don't have hard numbers yet. No.
I know that we've seen them in the past, but I think to my memory, the treating it with UV was the most expensive.
Actually, it was competitive with covering, putting a simple cover on.
Got it.
But the life cycle costs and the operational costs are much higher.
Right, and I feel like it might have been around $20 million for the cover. And this was under the Warren administration.
This is 2019
Right.
dollars.
Right. Yep.
COVID kind of changed.
Not looking forward to seeing that number, but
on it.
Thank
what
you.
It's going to be right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lupien. President Melendez.
No questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Councilmember Monroe.
Is there an anticipation that the federal government or through the state that we would get funding for this, or is this something that we're primarily having to plan for ourselves in the CIP?
We have been planning for this in the CIP. I think we're taking the approach that you plan for the worst and hope for the best. We will clearly be applying for funding. We do have some funding already available to us for Highland. I believe it's around $7 million from New York State. However, we cannot technically access that money until we know exactly what we're going to do at Highland. They don't just give you money if you don't have a plan in place. So we haven't been able to access any grant funding because we need to go to the funders with a actual, here's our project.
Right. So I was looking, I used the QR code, and I was looking for the next public workshop I see is going to be in the winter of 2025, summer. Wait, I had it right here. Spring of 25. So I also see that if people want to get on the mailing list, they could. That would be an opportunity for community groups to make sure that they get notice.
We also have a public affairs committee that includes leaders from the various neighborhood associations, the Highland Park Conservancy. So we will be having another meeting with them this winter. I have offered to go out and speak to these groups individually to present this same information if they have interest.
Okay.
We've also done some tours of the reservoir itself to give them a sense of what the challenges are. So we're trying to be as open with the stakeholders as we can be, because their input's valuable and we need it.
Is burying them do we have a sense of what would be the most expensive option? Or not until it's really, we decide what to do and we start to get engineering sketches?
I'm not really sure what would be the most expensive. I suspect buried concrete tanks might be the most expensive. It's just the material, but I don't want to speculate too much.
I had the opportunity to tour Cobb's Hill last time it was emptied, and it is gigantic. Being down there in the bowl of it was quite an experience to get a sense of just how huge the volume of water is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Monroe. Councilmember Patterson? Councilmember Smith?
Yeah.
If you can.
I believe Commissioner Perrin sent it, so.
Okay.
And this, a little bit longer version of this was given at our public meeting, and I believe we're going to be putting it up on the website shortly. So that the presentation at our public workshop, first one, it will also be there, and it'll look familiar. I took some of it from here, so.
So I suspect you will be emailing us the public meeting dates soon, and we'll be able to get that copy. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
That will conclude the presentation portion of this committee meeting. We will now proceed to the legislation. And before I get into the legislation, I just want to announce I want to announce some amendments and also disclosure of interest. I have an amendment in introductory number 404 and then introductory number 446 with the disclosure of interest with myself, Vice President Harris, and Councilmember Lupien. We can disclose affiliation only and may discuss with a vote because we work for the city school district. Introductory number 424, authorizing the acquisition of easements for Riverway Main to Andrew Street East project. Any questions, comments, or concern? Need a motion and second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Introductory number 425, authorizing a professional services agreement for the Port Terminal Rooftop Project Unit Replacement. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 426, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $918,000 bonds of said city to finance the cost of public safety building mechanical improvements. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I have a question.
Councilmember Lupien.
How much a part of the project is the heat pump?
Either Deputy Commissioner or the City Engineer can respond to that, or we can get back in writing if they don't have it.
Okay.
Yes, we'll have to get back to you on writing.
Okay, thank you.
I need a motion and a second. Is there any additional questions?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Introductory number 427, appropriating funds and authorizing an agreement for the public safety building mechanical improvements. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Introductory number 428, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $661,000 bonds of said city to finance the cost of the City Hall Building A window, heat pump, and envelope improvements, phases 1B and 1C. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Question.
Councilmember President Melendez.
Yes, so I think some of the answers may have come back to us, and we might have this, but I didn't see it yet. So in terms of the impact on Building A, I know last time when we had construction in the clerk's office, it took a little while to do the window replacement. Do we have a sense of which areas of Building A will be impacted by the project?
Deputy Commissioner or City Engineer?
Yeah, it's going to be on the first floor, right by the where the Treasury cage is, also by the HR office, and then mainly on the first floor. But we can provide you more detail if you're looking for exact locations.
So because it's mainly window replacement and exterior work, we shouldn't see an impact on the first floor in terms of the customer experience at City Hall?
Not for the customers. We'll initially we'll stage it, and hopefully we try to do it in a time frame overnight. But even if we do we have some float room within City Hall where we might try to relocate some services for a little bit, but it should be a 2-3 week period. But it should not impact the services for an extended period of time.
Great, thank you.
And I think also to say any disruption will be well communicated ahead of time so that folks know when they're coming in to visit.
Thank you.
And I just have a comment.
Councilmember Lupien.
Very, very happy to see all of the heat pump improvements. It's so great that we're taking steps, and it will save us money. Thank you.
I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Introductory number 429, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County for commercial solid waste, recycling, and street sweeping services. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Councilmember Gruber.
Oh.
And then Councilmember Lupien.
Thanks. I see that we do some work with Eco Park. Has that been the case for a long time?
No, Eco Park is a new addition to this contract.
Got it.
Yeah.
Is there ever going to be is there ever an opportunity for residents in the city of Rochester to recycle their electronics via our recycling program, or it's always going to be that people have to go out to Eco Park to do it?
That's a good question. I would defer to Karen.
We can't haul electronics, so that's why we send them to Eco Park.
Got it. So this is a brand new relationship with Eco Park, but it's basically the county's asking us to clean it. There's no kind of operational programmatic relationship there.
Right, it's to sweep. It's to street sweep there.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lupien.
I didn't have a question. I just wanted to move it.
Oh, okay. I'll take the motion. Need a second.
Mike seconded it.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Introductory number 430, authorizing grant agreement and appropriation for bipartisan infrastructure law-led service line replacement project. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Comment?
Councilmember President Melendez.
Yes, just kudos on getting grant dollars for this. I know that we keep going after it and we keep getting it. So just want to commend the administration for their work on doing that.
Councilmember Patterson.
Okay, so I'm going to commend the administration too, but I'd be remiss as a Northeast District Council member if I did not mention the fact that there is nothing represented in this second phase that is in the Northeast. Yeah, we got to do everywhere in the city, but it's my job to notice and mention that you are not covering the Northeast this cycle. I understand we are probably looking at another cycle of funding afterwards. Can we get some understanding of what is our plan for covering the entire city comprehensively?
Thanks, council member. We'll provide that in writing.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 431, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing issuance of a $14 million bond of said city to finance a portion of the cost of bipartisan infrastructure law-led service line replacement project. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 432, authorizing agreement relating to the program participant employment retention. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 433, authorizing a grant agreement amending the 2024-25 budget for emotional regulation and social excellence program. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Comment.
Councilmember Lupien.
I also see that there's several programs that deal with social emotional learning and emotional regulation, and just, you know, kudos to spending the money and the manpower on our kids. This is very important, and I think it will go a long way.
Any additional comments? Councilmember Smith.
Yes, this is amazing. I'm wondering if we can get information on the pilot that was done or anything that you have on the program.
We can get that to you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. Yeah, I echo Councilmember Lupien's point. There's a couple of exciting new projects. I'm curious, is there like an overarching strategy around how we work on social emotional supports in our centers? I'd also imagine that hiring is probably fairly difficult. Are we hiring ourselves? Are we subcontracting for all of these? Just love to know kind of what the overall strategy is.
I'll let Kendra.
Thanks, council member. So, as you know, we already do have social emotional services in now 5 of our centers with Center for Youth, where we have embedded services with child and family therapists and social learning specialists, but this is something outside of that. This is the emotional regulation and social excellence program that the Carter Street team piloted last summer, and then they went for grant dollars to expand their program. They wanted to provide emotional support that include inclusive therapeutic services, sensory-friendly areas, interactive technology, and a therapy dog program. So with this particular one, there's no hiring of staff. We have a contractor for the therapy dog program. We have the interactive digital system. We have our DES team that's going to build out our sensory space. So it's kind of in-house and with partners.
Thanks. And that makes sense for this program, and that's wonderful that the folks at Carter Street have really taken it and run with it. For the other initiatives, for the 5 rec centers that already have some of these supports, you mentioned some of the different organizations we're subcontracting with. I'd imagine those different organizations probably have different specialties, or there's different ways to kind of segment how the contracts go to different places. I guess I'm just trying to understand if we have money that we want to spend on social emotional supports at our centers, is there like a blueprint for how the best way to spend those dollars for the communities that each our center serves? How do we know what that might be? Does that question make sense?
Kind of.
I can ask it a different way if you'd rather.
Yeah, because I think we're talking about one thing, but 2 different aspects.
Well, I'm not talking about specifically the race grant. You answered that question.
Just talking generally.
Yeah, just generally speaking.
Okay.
So our strategy to this point has been to subcontract when we're not hiring in-house to work with kids and social emotional supports. So the idea is when we have dollars, how do we know which organization to contract with at which rec center? I mean, that's the kind of understanding I'm trying to get.
So when we went for the social emotional learning program, we did an RFP to look for agencies that could provide the services we were looking for to support children with trauma-informed care, restorative practices. And so that vendor, Center for Youth, was selected out of there. And so I think as we learn different needs of our children in the rec center, we will continue to look for services, probably through an RFP. This particular grant was something they were working on outside of the social emotional learning program we were already doing, and identified a number of students, a number of young people in the rec center that needed those services, and then they were able to get the grant to continue that work.
Thanks, that's helpful. Appreciate it.
Any additional questions? I need a motion a second.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 434, authorizing the grant agreement and amending the 2024-25 budget for the Flower City AmeriCorps program. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I need a motion a second.
Move it.
Question.
Councilmember Smith, question?
Yes, I don't believe we've ever had a work session on AmeriCorps, have we?
I don't believe we have.
Would you mind, can we get one scheduled?
Yes, I can. Would that be okay, Dr. Gruber? I'm sorry, Dr. Green?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll set that up. Councilmember
Second.
Smith, do you have any additional questions? We got a motion on the floor?
You moved it. I seconded it. I think
Okay.
we're good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 435, authorizing a grant agreement and intermunicipal agreement for the Flower City Public Health AmeriCorps program. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 436, authorizing mandatory agreements related to the Youth Empowerment Project and to other youth development services. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 437, authorizing a mandatory agreement relating to My Brother's Keeper Youth Growth and Development Program. There's two disclosures for this item. And introductory number 446, Councilmember Lupien and myself, as we both are employees of the school district, we are only required to disclose this information and may participate in discussion and vote. I have a question. I believe that I asked a question in the agenda review. Can you provide demographic data of each school that each consultant served during the summer for all programs? And I believe the answer that was given, it wasn't really quite answered. If you can, please provide me an answer in writing for that.
If you can clarify what you mean by demographics, we sent information, and so if you can just let us know what else you need, that would be helpful.
So I'd just like to know age, male, female, just, data that will relate to knowing who's coming and, maybe zip code of where they're coming from that participates in the program. I can probably put that in writing if you like.
Some of that information is in there, but we could add more. So if you just let us know what additional information you need, we can do that.
Okay. And then, is there any additional questions, council members? Need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion carries. Introductory number 438, authorizing the mandatory agreement for the Youth Growth and Development Program. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Introductory motion carries. Introductory number 439, authorizing an agreement relating to an evaluation of the Rochester Peace Collective. I do have an amendment for this.
I believe that's 404 that we're going to have an amendment.
I apologize. Yeah, that's. So any questions, comments, or concern?
I have a question.
Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. I'm just curious what made the CGR proposal jump out.
So I don't have the scores in front of me, but certainly I can look at those scores and provide that information to you.
Is the evaluation, so are we asking them to come develop the evaluation and do it, or is there an existing format that we're asking them to just implement?
They will develop the evaluation working with the team and then conduct that evaluation.
So as part of their submission, they identified what it's going to look like, what their evaluation will include.
Yes.
Okay. Could we see a copy? Could we get a copy of some version of that? I'm not asking for their whole RFP, but some version of what their. I think this is a really important. Obviously, we all know this is an important initiative to evaluate. I've been left wanting with some previous evaluations from this organization, so I just love to know kind of what they're planning on doing. So if there's other things at least council would like to have included in said evaluation, we could at least potentially make a proposal of that. Specific questions, things of that nature.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Yes.
Councilmember President Melendez.
So back when we initiated the original $5 million for the Peace Collective, I recall, and specifically I also asked for an evaluation of this particular component of the program. I know that we had the Bronner Group doing the ARPA evaluation overall for all ARPA-based programs, but specifically to try to design up front. This is, I guess, a comment first, and I'll have a question. So design up front what a program evaluation could look like for these 29 entities or whatever the number is, so that they could be building towards their own capacity, understanding how they can measure the effectiveness of their programs. And I guess I'm a little concerned that 2 years later, we're coming back with an evaluation when we could have, in theory, built it up front and probably been more helpful to the grassroots organizations in terms of capacity building. That being said, I am pleased to see this. I do have a question about, so this is going to be evaluating, developing evaluation and then evaluating the 29 programs for the next 2 years. Is that our understanding?
That's
Is that
correct?
Okay. And in that evaluation, what is the intention or the, I guess, what is the overall goal for the evaluations on the city's end? So one is to understand what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then is there anticipation that if organizations are doing it well, we might, through other sources, continue to support them, or what's the overall aim and goal?
So I think, as you said, when the program was developed, it was to allow these organizations to build for self-sufficiency so that they can continue the work and lift that work early on so they can continue that. So out of this evaluation, we would be hopefully able to give them tips to continue the work, as well as help them find other sources of income to keep their program continuing. We will also make sure we gather data from the work that they're doing in terms of the number of people they're serving and the impact that they're having.
Yes, and I do remember also at the launch of the Peace Collective, there was a conversation about, you know, obviously the city can't fund this forever, all the things that we have been funding through ARPA dollars, but transitioning and trying to help build relationships and capacity building to find other sources of funds. I guess in writing, could the administration provide us a sense of what level of capacity building is being done on the city's end? What kind of handoffs are being, or connections to other sources of funds, whether that's private foundation dollars or other state grants or other grants in general from other levels of government? Because I think it's important that the work of the Peace Collective isn't necessarily completely owned by the city of Rochester in terms of the funding mechanism, but that it is invested in and supported and continues beyond ARPA.
And I would hope that we can build that into the contract with CGR so that that can be a part of their completed report for each of the vendors.
Understood. Thank you.
Any additional questions? I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 440.
Vice President, I have a quick question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Did we vote on introductory 438?
I thought we did, but.
Yeah,
I thought we did, yeah.
we did.
I have it checked off here.
Okay. Sorry. Just want to make sure
Did you
that
have
we
a
did.
question on that one?
No, we're just in conversation with the clerk, making sure that we move the item. Thank you.
Okay. So introductory number 440, authorizing an agreement and appropriation to install a community messaging sign at the engine number 5 firehouse located in 450 Lyle Avenue. Thank you, Councilmember Monroe, for your hard work and advocacy on this item. Any questions and comments and concerns?
Move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Introductory number 446, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement for Rochester My Brother's Keeper programming. As previously shared, there are two disclosures from myself and Councilmember Lupien. We are only required to disclose. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 447, authorizing American Rescue Plan Act funds, amending the 2024-25 budget and authorizing a mandatory agreement relating to the healthcare workforce resiliency project. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I need a Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. Is there a report on what's been accomplished with the first 2 rounds of this yet?
Yes, we can provide it to you.
Great. I really hope we can get that as soon as possible before the council meeting. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 449, appropriating American Rescue Plan Act funds and amending the 2024-25 budget relating to the Young Adult Manufacturing Training Employment Program. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 451, authorizing a mandatory agreement related to the Workforce Development Services. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 452, authorizing American Rescue Plan Act funds for 2023 3A lead service line replacement project. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Introductory number 404, ARPA Rochester Police Collective. This is the one we have an amendment on.
So this one was held in committee, so it was held in committee last month. Right, so we just have an amendment, right.
Yeah, it was held in committee. It's going to be brought forward, and then there's an amendment from the administration.
So we previously held it, authorizing the agreement. The administration has put it forward as an amendment to the legislation, and it should be on your desk and stuff, and you should have it. I need a motion on the floor.
So I'll make a motion to amend the contract to exclude Southwest Area Neighborhood Association as a recipient for a new total of $755,000.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? I need a motion in a second.
So we just need a second to amend the item. Yep. So we got a second on the amendment. Yep.
Okay. All in favor? No.
Aye.
Now we vote. Any opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. Now we need a motion in a second.
So we voted on the amendment. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we voted to amend the item, and now we're voting on the item as amended.
Oh, okay. Let me now we got to vote on the item as amendment. So we need a vote. All in favor?
Move it first.
Yeah, we got to move it. Move it.
Second.
We need a motion in a second.
Just got it.
Move it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries. With no further business, the People, Parks, and Public Works Committee stands adjourned.